Tears, and we're gonna dive right in, looking at further diving into the Charlie Kirk murder and the possibilities, conspiracies, suspicions around Israel's involvement in all of this and all the information that has come out in the last few days. So, as we know, Charlie Kirk, former Turning Point USA founder, was a prominent conservative voice advocating for pro Israel policies and Christian Zionism. He was assassinated on September 10th, 2005. Has sparked a lot of
Did you,
controversy and conspiracy. What was that?
did you say 2005?
No, 25.
Oh, okay. I'm just deaf. Okay,
Yeah,
keep
20.
going.
Yeah, 2025. Has sparked a lot of conspiracy on the left and right. So both sides of the aisle have had their theories on really what's going on here. So the information that we have here for you today is actually Ron. How would you pronounce that? Muhammad Uns.
Depends on what his heritage is.
Yeah, I'm gonna go
You
Uns.
guys can think about how that's pronounced.
Yeah, it's a UNZ, but he's a publisher of a review that he does. Cited a source claiming Kirk's inner circle, including Trump administration officials, suspected Israeli involvement. So this individual has a history of writing on topics like alleged Israeli false flags, and his platform has amplified claims of undue Israeli influence in U.S. politics. So no mainstream medias have corroborated this specific claim as of now, but it echoes the broader debates of foreign lobbying on our United States government, and that's something that we have seen have a full grasp on the Trump administration, realistically. And then now you're even at. Go ahead.
Honestly, and I want to add that this, as we shared the other day, as I was looking for articles about the possible foreign intelligence outside the common story of what we're being told, possibilities for the Kirk murder. No mainstream media is saying anything about it except for the normal story.
Yeah,
Tyler Robinson, 100% did it. Tyler Robinson's the suspect. Tyler Robinson's the shooter. Everything points to him. And then they're not talking. No one's mentioning about how Netanyahu tried to buy Turning Point USA from Kirk for $150
yeah,
million and he denied it. No one's talking about how Netanyahu invited Kirk 2 weeks before his death and he denied it. No one's talking about how Kirk said 2 days before his death how it's not fair, how he's not allowed to criticize Israel. No one's talking about how a week before Kirk got murdered, how he had a closed door meeting in New York with a Jewish billionaire and a few other people regarding the direction of Turning Point USA,
yeah.
where he expressed extreme concern and distaste for Benjamin Netanyahu specifically. Kirk even went as far as saying, I love Israel, but I think Netanyahu and his regime are extremely radical in that this is a war crime that's going on in Gaza.
Yeah, he
So
was on those edges, like as you're saying, like speaking out of really what Israel has been doing, as well as like what the international world has been seeing and condemning Israel, like what they've been doing to the individuals in Gaza. We
and
know that this is a genocide across the board, and scholars
100%.
are starting to actually now say that it is a genocide. I believe when Trump was in the UK, I think that was yesterday or today,
Yeah,
actually.
yesterday they treated him like a
Um,
big pampered baby.
yeah, but then the UK, I believe it's their prime minister's the head of their country. I
Keir Starmer.
believe
Yeah,
he was saying that he was going to state that they support a Palestinian state once Trump left. So like
that'd be
it's
funny.
the right. So it's hilarious that they want to do that. But like on top of what Muhammad was saying, there are other individuals that are really speaking out on what's going on, and Tucker Carlson, former, obviously everyone knows him, former Fox host and now independent podcaster, is actually accusing Trump of exploiting the murder of Charlie Kirk to push for speech restrictions, framing it as a threat to the First Amendment. Carlson's quote emphasizes authoritarian risk. He said, "If they can tell you what to say, and they're telling you what to think, there is nothing they can't do to you."
Pretty
And
good quote.
that's pretty good quote, and that's coming from an individual like Tucker Carlson, who has been under the peer review of being shut down for his views. I do believe he was fired Fox for some of his ideological views that he had with the Trump administration coming in and so forth that are a little out of bounds that Fox felt. But even having him state that Trump is using this murder to restrict the level of free speech that Charlie Kirk would want to actually be out in the world. This is aligning with Carlson's past criticisms of government overreach, such as his 2023 interview on January 6th and COVID policies. This is also another reach. It may be a different administration, people, but this is still another overreach on our civil rights and our rights across the board. This is the First Amendment coming under the stress test, realistically.
And I
You
want to
know,
add as well, with all this going on, this really, the Kirk murder is really being exploited by the politicians as a means
so
of
much.
silencing speech. I mean, there was a reporter the day after Kirk was murdered asked Trump like how he's feeling about all this, if he's like grieving still from it. And Trump said, quote, I, uh, how are you dealing with the passing of Mr. Kirk, President Trump? Trump says, I'm doing fine, but let me tell you about my golf game the other day. Literally started talking about his golf game.
Yeah, just
And so it's clear that these people literally don't care actually about Kirk, and this is nothing more than to be a thing for them to exploit, which is very normal, I must say, for politicians. They exploit death all the time. We see it with the October 7th shoving up lies all up everybody's brain about beheaded babies. Joe Biden was being the one that pitched that. Babies being put in ovens, all was totally debunked, were lies being pushed directly by Netanyahu so he could get that American base to freak out about what the Palestinians, what the Hamas is doing to them.
yeah,
And then we see now with this passing of Kirk, the Israelis are getting more control over American social media. Shortly after Kirk was killed, it was noted that TikTok is about to be sold officially to the United States and form a United States version. And this is the kicker with it. It maintains the entire Chinese code, but Jewish billionaires get to own it. 80% of it's going to be owned by Larry Ellison, I believe it is, the CEO of Oracle. And it's going to be split with another Jewish billionaire as well. And this goes further with the fact that TikTok was just hired a former IDF soldier who's specializing in countering hate speech on the app. So it's clear the reason why TikTok was originally even banned in the first place was because it was a place for anti-Semitism, as they would say, aka criticism of Israel, to spread. So now they saw that they were able to use this killing of Kirk as long with a few other things that were going on in the modern day politics to say, well, we can get a lot of these silencing speech moves done. And who's going to say no to us? Because as we see, the Republicans control the House and the Senate and the White House. The Republicans in the House and Senate have no problem following with what Trump does, nor saying what he does. And to go even further with how this is all very sketchy, there's been multiple angles from the Kirk shooting camera wise that have not been shown to the public.
yeah,
And even furthermore, there was drones flying around during the Kirk shooting that there has not been any footage of from them. And so I also know, and we have it noted down here, that the NSA detected 12 Israeli registered cell phones at the site of
yeah,
Kirk's murder when he was murdered. So through the grapevine, what is being said from people that were close to Kirk's circle and being reported on by people who are familiar with them is that Kirk was absolutely fearing Israel leading up to his passing. And well, I shouldn't say passing, his murder.
yeah,
Passing makes it seem like it was like health concern or just old age. His murder, and this goes hand in hand with also the fact that President Trump himself, that spineless coward, has said that he is also not said, but it's been indicated by the fact that Netanyahu has bugged his limo, his Secret Service vehicle, as well as various other parts of when he visited America. Trump fears Netanyahu. And now, this is something that Tucker Carlson has actually spoken about, as well as a few others, that Trump fears Netanyahu for two reasons. One, same what we're seeing with Kirk, the idea of death, but two, largely because of the Epstein files. So it really seems like that the Israeli government, or I should say Bibi Netanyahu and his radical regime, tried to control Turning Point USA through financially acquiring it. That backfired on them. They tried to pressure Kirk into being more pro-Zionist, pro-Netanyahu. Hey, Israel doesn't do anything wrong. That didn't work. And now it just seems like, since they know they can't sway the public, the young public, and a lot of people who are also actually opening up to the idea of realizing how bad Israel is, that they said, well, if this isn't working, we're just going to go with silencing everybody as we can.
Yeah, they're trying to silence individuals on these Epstein lists and the names that are on those lists. Like we saw and we reported yesterday that the Republicans they voted to not let out the files, and now Democrats and Republicans are now one vote away just from actually having those files released. So this is something that they're actively trying to stop on a grander scale because they're really worried about the release of all the files. I understand that Kash Patel, when he got eviscerated during his hearings, he's like, I've released the files. Like, yes, you released information, but there's clearly information that's not being released or information that is redacted that has something to do with a list. You can't run for almost 4 years, 2 years before becoming president, having these individuals on these podcast rooms, spit out, oh, there's a list. We're going to get these people. And then you get into the offices to where you have the power to actually go after these individuals. And all you do is when you come to the oversight committee hearings, you're just going back and forth and sparring with senators because they care more about a sexual predator than the actual FBI director does. It's just, it's ridiculous.
I would argue this. I don't think the Dems care that much as they indicate. I think there's very few people who do actually care. I think the Dems see this as an opportunity to take out political opponents, and which is why they weren't pushing for it when Biden was president, because they didn't need to get rid of political opponents. Because the one thing about the Democrats is they're an extremely arrogant group. They don't think they need to do things the way the other party does things because they think they're better. They see Trump do these things with the executive orders. They see the Senate just today, the Republicans passed, I think, 47 of Trump's appointees with one vote by changing the Senate rules to be able to do that. The Democrats don't do this because they think they're the more moral, the higher class group. And it's pretty disgusting, in my opinion, because we've seen these people. We know Bill Clinton's on the list, and we've seen these people. If you're going to claim that you care about the list, if you're going to basically claim you care about the victims, you should have been voting on this the entire time. Like, the only people who I think actually care about the victims are Massey.
No, I mean,
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Can see that, and I wouldn't say that it's a to get rid of political opponents. I look at it more as a power shifting grab. Because they ran on this. So if you want to run for it, the chickens are going to roost. Like, yes, let's do this. It's like, let's do this then. Like, let's put it up for a vote. Let's see if you're all talk or you actually just said that for 4 years, 2 years just to get in the office. So now the electorate can see just how fake you are and what you state. Oh, it's on your desk. It's on your desk. No, it's not on your desk. It's apparently nowhere from what Kash Patel says, but there's court documents that state other. And, Congressman Thomas Massey, a known libertarian, and has libertarian stances and opposes foreign aid, claimed in a September 2025 interview that FBI Director Kash lied about the non-existence of a Epstein list. Massey referenced FBI files detailing 20 men in Epstein's sex trafficking network, including a high-profile government official, Hollywood producer, banker, former politician, and Italian car company owner, rock star, magician, and 6 billionaires, 1 Canadian. So the banker part is the most interesting thing there, because if I'm not mistaken, there were revelations a few years ago about, I think it might have been Morgan Stanley being one, JP Morgan actually, being one of the individuals that would facilitate these bank transactions and the bank records. So could you just imagine if they were able to just get the bank records themselves and not even the files? The bank records will show a lot more detailed information compared to what's actually in the files. Like, yes, you get the names, but then you get the shell corporations that these things are being funneled through, and you get all the breakdowns and the true illegal structures that were built to be able to facilitate, a mass sex trafficking operation to this level of, degree. This is all
follow the money.
Exactly. This is all built on from 2019 to 2024, and even now, all the revelations with Jeffrey Epstein and really trying to put it all together from, his death in custody, Ghislaine Maxwell's conviction, the unsealed court documents, naming figures like Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Leon Black, and Jess Stanley, who's a former Barclays CEO. Like these are things that the American people need to know because that on top of Israel's hold on our domestic and foreign policy are the really big two pieces that Americans really want to dig into and find out like what's the truth about it. I feel like those are really big issues for a lot of Americans outside of your table, your counter table issues and so forth. Like,
And
yeah,
I mean,
uh-huh.
Uh, I also know that a lot of Americans right now are also very fed up with being fed lies. You know what I mean? And aside from the large swath of Democrats who just hate Trump and think he's lying about everything, there is also a large group of Americans who just know they're clearly being lied to in regard to the
Right.
Epstein files.
Yep.
And when people see, this big lie regarding a child sex rapist pedophile who trafficked them, they think, well, what else is being lied about? And I think that's the big reason why a lot of people are skeptical about the Kirk killing, because they see, how things have unfolded. They see these text messages that come out. There's 4.0 student who is apparently extremely smart, who then implicates everything he was going to do, exactly how he did it, piece by piece as it was
Yeah.
happening. They say that he messaged his boyfriend immediately after the shooting. They're
Yeah,
saying
like
that he messaged him while the guy was like running off the roof. He messaged his boyfriend. He was like, "Hey, I just did the shooting. I
and
this is
someone
crazy.
took
I want to let you know."
that transcript and put it in ChatGPT and said that it's fake, literally.
Man, you don't have to be a genius to read that and be like, this isn't how people talk. If I had just murdered somebody, the last thing that I would be on my mind was taping out grammatically correct
Right.
paragraphs to my
I'm using
significant other.
Siri
You know
text
what I
to
mean?
speech. Like, what's going on here? Like, I'm out. Like, come on,
Yeah.
don't. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are just seeing this and they're getting skeptical because mixed with the Epstein files, people know Israel is up to something involved with Epstein. A lot of people think Epstein was working with Mossad, which, given the fact that he fled to Israel after his initial court hearing in Miami back in Florida, I mean, back in the late
Yeah.
2000s, it makes you start to kind of connect the dots. Like, why did he flee to Israel? You know what I mean? Why did he flee to Israel? And
Same
I
reason that
just think that we're not being fed the true story behind what killed
no,
Kirk,
not at all.
and I am not at all. And I also I was watching this one video earlier that I found interesting. It was a Marine sniper who was like talking about how everything went down. And he said that front angle that we see of Charlie Kirk's bullet wound, he said that's the exit wound, meaning the shot came
From
from the
behind.
back,
Wow.
from behind. Yeah. And there was this one audio file, for audiophile, someone who's really into audio, how it works, how to track it, things like that. And it was a audio hearing of the shooting at the Kirk I was about to say Kirk hearing, at Kirk's event when the shooting occurred. And based off the audio waves and how the audio tracked and was led, he was saying that the bullet came within 30-40 yards, not 100 yards away, like is already 80, 90 yards away. It was like half the distance
Yeah, I
at
know people have
least
been saying
compared to what
people
people are
have seen
saying.
the front facing video, like Charlie Kirk's back is like it's like an over shoulder video, I believe, like to the right hand side, I think. It's
Yeah.
one guy standing in front of Charlie Kirk. He's got weird looking hair, glasses, and he's got like let's say like a beigeish collared shirt, and he's like standing kind of like arm on shoulder, like left hand on railing, arm on shoulder, kind of like this. And one of my friends sent me this, and I've seen this on X multiple times, and it's actually people were thinking that it was actually a palm gun. So the individual was like staggered like this front row, and then just boom, boom, and then in the video you kind of see like he like jumps, but you kind of like in a recoil type stance. Like if you're believing in that, it does look like something like from a recoil stance, the way that he looks in that video. But it's
Yeah.
just interesting to see all this information come out, and also all of the unfortunately the pro-Israel siding that has been coming from this Trump administration ever since Charlie Kirk has been gruesomely assassinated. Like the attacks on the First Amendment that have been just exacerbated in the last 24 hours, to say the least, have
Oh man, it's crazy. And the thing is, literally hours after Kirk got murdered, they blocked the Epstein files. The day after Kirk got murdered, they're trying to, a few days after Kirk got murdered, they're trying to spread laws to silence speech that's considered anti-Semitic.
Individuals' passports, get rid of, divest in contracts that support the what BDS movement, the pro-Israel, I mean pro-Palestine, pro-Gaza supporting movement as well. So we saw all of these things take place, and then now we're seeing kind of even further, looking at conservative attacks really on the First Amendment. And JD Vance, as vice president, stated in 2025, our own government encouraged private companies to silence people under Donald Trump's leadership. We may disagree with your views, but we will fight to defend your right to offer it in the public square. That is so
Such
far
cowards, such
from what is
hypocrites.
actually happening now. So like I kind of want to give like a timeline of what has been going on with Jimmy Kimmel and the whole situation. I know everyone has their reservations for it, but you have to understand the dangers that comes with this level of hammering down from the president to the FCC to ABC to then Kimmel. All in the previous individuals that have been let go from their jobs. Me and Muhammad were talking about this. The FCC was never involved in it. It was always the parent company firing of the individual for what the individual had said. So at first, ABC probably didn't even think what Kimmel said was out of line or too far from having to be removed indefinitely from the show. It wasn't until the FCC stepped in, Trump stepped in for some mergers, that Kimmel ultimately got the boot. But let's start.
And I
Yeah,
want to add to what you just said before you keep going further on. They so specifically related to that, they were supported by the Rolling Stone actually, that in the hours leading up to the decision to pull Jimmy Kimmel, two sources familiar with the matter say that senior executives at ABC and its owner Disney and affiliates convened emergency meetings to figure out how to minimize the damage caused by what he said. Take in mind, Kimmel really didn't say anything crazy. He really didn't. If you hear what he said, he wasn't insulting Kirk. He literally like tweeted out that Kirk being killed was wrong and this isn't a good step for America. And then basically what he said in his little comment that got him fired was that people on the right are immediately acting like the guy was a leftist shooter, and they're like this completely getting rid of the possibility that could have been somebody who had farther right beliefs. But they're saying that in order to figure out how to minimize the damage, multiple executives felt that Kimmel had not actually said anything over the line, the two sources say, but the threat of Trump administration's retaliation loomed over them, so they decided to fire him.
yeah. So,
And that retaliation,
yeah,
that retaliation was the FCC tanking the merger that Nexstar, the parent company of the Jimmy Kimmel Show and who owns them, was trying to merge to create a company that would essentially control 80% of the American broadcasting stations.
yeah, exactly.
But go ahead.
So you have starting so everyone can get the full picture and really understand the gravity of like what's going on. Like it's been sitting with me so bad because it's such a, and I don't really think people understand the level of precedent this freaking sets for the next president across the board. Like, yeah, like it's honestly,
The Republicans are
Republicans are
crazy.
crazy to actually even think of this or even do this. But starting with September 10th, we all know you have the Charlie Kirk assassination, and then you have September 15th, during the Monday night monologue on Jimmy Kimmel Live. Jimmy Kimmel addressed the killing and so forth, and that's when Muhammad was stating that he made the statement that MAGA was trying to say that it was a leftist, and he was more so saying, it's, we don't know what's going on with anything, but for the MAGA to be stating this and pointing this, that's, pretty, messed up. And the words that he's saying is obviously not in the same way that I'm saying it, but he did receive a level of backlash. And then you have, September 16th, the level of backlash erupts to unprecedented levels on pro-Trump websites, podcasts, and Fox News as well, labeling Kimmel's remarks as defamatory and anti-conservative hate speech. So Trump reposts these clips multiple times on Truth Social, calling them a horrible thing about a great gentleman. So that basically that anything that Kimmel had said was pushed out across all of Trump's platforms in a way that was curating it to make it seem like what Kimmel said was going against or was anti-conservative hate speech, or however you want to define that now in these days.
Yeah, right. Hate
Yeah,
speech is about to get a
very, yeah,
very
it
funny
really is.
definition.
And then you have September 17th, yesterday, FCC Brendan Carr, a Trump appointee in February 2025, escalates an interview with right-wing podcaster Benny Johnson. He says, "We can do this the easy way or the hard way," implying the FCC could revoke licenses of ABC affiliates if Disney fails to act against Kimmel. Carr reiterates on Fox News that broadcasters must uphold public trust obligations. And he warns that these companies can find ways to change conduct and take action on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead. There are broadcast,
And
yeah,
I want to add very quickly that when Biden was president, this guy wasn't the FCC chair, but he had a Twitter profile. He tweeted out that American broadcasting stations should be able to be free to say whatever they want. He literally said that. I'm paraphrasing the guy here, but he basically said that the broadcasting stations don't serve the public interest. Quite literally
yeah, the
said the
public
public
interest, right?
interest. You know what I mean? It's so ironic, so hypocritical. He's like, they don't serve the public interest. They're there for
Right,
speech.
exactly.
It's speech.
Then you have 2017, that's when you have kind of like what Muhammad was saying, the Nexstar Media Group, which operates 32 ABC affiliates and is awaiting the FCC Trump administration approval for a merger with Tegna, valued at $8.7 billion. So Nexstar issues a press release condemning Kimmel's comments as offensive and insensitive and announces it will preempt the show on its stations, releasing it with local programming to foster respectful dialogue. Sinclair Broadcast Group, which has 28 of ABC's affiliates and pending businesses before the Trump administration, follows suit, demanding Kimmel to issue an apology to the Kirk family and actually go even a step further to donate to Turning Point USA, which is insane. So just in,
Using Kirk's death for political
yep,
benefit.
and just like as I was saying, Nexstar has 32 of ABC affiliates. Sinclair has 28 of ABC affiliates. 1983, 50% of companies controlled 90% of the United States media market. That number now is roughly down to 5. So that just shows.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to add this. That's due to Bill Clinton.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not saying it's
The Bill.
a Trump thing or left and
No, I
right.
know.
It's
I'm
just
just
the
saying, like, when
conglomerate
this
itself.
a
It's
part of
dangerous.
when this started.
It's just dangerous how
Yeah,
we have a monopoly of
it
media.
is.
It really, like, that's the worst level of monopoly you probably want to have in a democratic country, is the monopolization of the media, because when there comes a new president in power that's a Democrat and wants to lever this level of hammering, he's going to have kind of the playbook to actually do it and get it done. And,
Yeah.
moving on. So the evening of the 17th, that's when, hours after the affiliate actions, ABC announces the indefinite nationwide suspension of the Jimmy Kimmel Live show, stating only that it will be preempted indefinitely. Decision effectively guts the show's distribution, as affiliates cover 70% of the U.S. markets, threatening its $76.6 billion annual ad revenue. So Kimmel has not, commented publicly. I don't even think he felt like his comments, suffice for an apology. I don't even think he's going to give an apology.
Why would
And
he
kudos to him
apologize?
for
Wrong.
standing on his standing on business actually, and like stating that, as you said, they saw that his comments weren't that defamatory, but from the pressures of Trump, that's what let it happen. That's what led it to the Jimmy Kimmel show being canceled. Now, on a personal note, I don't think the show should have been canceled. But if ABC, if things were different and they did feel that those levels of language that he used were not fitting and were actually hate speech, then that's on them to want to pull him. It shouldn't be up to the Trump administration to say, yeah, we want to revoke his license for what he said about Charlie Kirk, someone that Muhammad said earlier that he was asked about a day after the shooting,
Yeah.
and he's not even
Day after the
remorsing
shooting,
it.
and
He's just talking about his golf, the event that he was going to, and so forth. So,
And I also want to add that after this all happened, I think it was today, actually, it may have been yesterday. Trump was asked about other news affiliate stations and that speak negatively on him, and he quite literally said, they shouldn't be able to do that. We're going to look into revoking their licenses if needed. So this guy is plain outright saying if they criticize the president, they shouldn't be allowed to be in business, which is
Literally.
extremely un-American. Tie this with the fact that he has a golden statue of himself now in front of the White House
Yeah.
on the
Holding
portion where
Bitcoin.
you can see the
Holding a
White House as
Bitcoin.
a tourist holding a Bitcoin. Yeah, golden statue. Does anyone think about that golden calf of the Bible story? He does actually also have a golden calf, which I will continuously complain about, but it's just so
No,
ironic.
there's not like
But
a straight line towards all the evidence, but it's plausible and it's right in your face. Like this is a hammering down from the
on free
FCC on
speech,
free speech across the board, and like conservatives, you guys got to stand up for this. Like I always say, if you're gonna be a champion of a right, a full-on champion, you have to be a champion for all of it. You can't just be a champion for a piece of it. You have to be a champion for all free
yeah.
speech, no matter what it is. It's the freedom to state it. Now, if it's a lie, that's a different story. Like, obviously, shouldn't be spreading out lies and rumors, but you have freedom of speech regardless.
Elon Musk
Like,
spreads the most lies every day. You know what I mean? Dude is hailed as a savior of the right by Trump almost. You know what I mean? Like, clearly, it's not about lying or about telling the truth. It's simply about saying what one group likes to
yeah, like
hear.
I think earlier today, President Trump on Air Force One, he said, when you have a network and you have evening shows and all they do is hit Trump, that's all they do. If you go back, I guess you haven't had a conservative one in years or something. When you go back and take a look, all they do is hit Trump. They're licensed. They're not allowed to do that. Now, just everyone wrap your heads. Let's take you back to, let's go 2020 when Biden was president. Could you imagine Biden saying these things, going after Fox News for talking bad about him, how elderly he was, sleepy, all that stuff, and started revoking licenses? Conservatives would burn, but the
The right would have went
conservatives
insane.
would have burnt the White House down at that point. Like,
Oh yeah,
and the fact that I feel like the fact that everyone's not understanding or really grasping how like detrimental this is and this can be for both sides of the aisle is like, I feel like that's worrying to me realistically. Like
I
it's
agree.
I don't know why this is like the one thing I'm like, this is literally like the first show of like stepping on amendments. Like this is literally like all the things before immigration, we get that that messes with the 14th Amendment. Yes, legalities and all that, but this is like clearly the first. This is the
Core American
first
policy.
core step on American, the heart of America, the First Amendment for a reason, and the most important for a reason. And this is blatant, and I feel like no one is really grasping like how bad this can really get, like down the
Yeah,
line. Like I'm at like,
I mean
yeah, I just keep thinking of all the
the th-
scenarios, and it just scares me, honestly. Like,
yeah, no, the thing is, I mean, in relation to what you were saying about if Biden did this, the Republicans would have gone crazy. The Democrats are extremely arrogant. The Republicans are completely shameless. They know what they're doing. They know they're being hypocrites. They don't care. These people will lie, kick, and scream to do whatever they can to get things on their advantage. And it is, I mean, you see it with the people who like, Laura Loomer. You see it with people like Nancy Mace. You see it with people all across the aisle among the Republicans. There was a Republican congressman, I'm blanking on his name right now. He quite literally said if Kirk was around during Jesus Christ's time, he would have been
oh
the
God, I
13th
saw that.
apostle.
I saw it.
And it's just things like that. Like, do you have no shame? You know what I mean? Like, how are you
You're
gonna
spewing
say
anything
that?
at that point. I'm like, what do you like?
Spewing, and that's the thing, they literally spew anything because they have no
Would you
shame.
say
These
that when
people
he was
claim to be
here?
Christians and then they worship a man like Trump with a golden calf. They go to the wall in Israel and they touch the wall, basically saying like, yeah, we are cucks to the Zionist movement. We are cucks to Israel. We're cucks to Trump, and we're gonna claim we're good Christians all while we cut taxes for the rich, get rid of hospitals in rural areas, XYZ, get rid of free speech amendment by saying that you're not allowed to criticize the president. it's embarrassing, but they don't
Yeah.
care because they're
Like I saw
shameless.
a it was a pretty funny tweet, made me laugh throughout the day. It was United States Congress is doing a resolution to honor Charlie Kirk, and someone had quote tweeted it and said, I can't afford my groceries. And like that's how people are
Yeah.
feeling right now. Like they understand the level of importance that Charlie Kirk was to the conservative and Christian movement, and that's no doubt that anyone can dilute across the board. That man spoke his mind, stood on business, and stood his ground on his ideologies that he was willing to advocately speak on any platform, anywhere, against or with anybody. That is the most usage of the First Amendment that you're going to get out of it. But what they're doing is they're trying to restrict it more and more and more and more and more. And like how you said with the TikTok deal, that is going to be
Yeah.
basically run by Israel, and they are going to silence anyone that's or anyone or anything that's pro-Palestinian. Like trying to think back like not decades, years ago when France was going through the yellow vest protest. If you remember that, when France was like under,
Was that the Charlie because of the Charlie Hebdo murder?
I think so. No, that was due to the that was Macron wanting to. I think it was a
Wait,
tax. It
really?
was
The
a tax. It
pension?
was a carbon tax. It was the farmers kind of like coming out against it or whatever, but it was basically France was under fire, basically under fire, but it wasn't
Yeah.
being picked up on any other social media platform besides TikTok. TikTok was the only place you could actually
Yeah.
see like the rawness of it, and now that's going to be taken away across the board. It's going to be controlled. What you see,
Yeah.
the algorithms are going to be controlled by the two individuals who are Jewish and Zionists, and they basically took it from China's control to Jewish control. Realistically, when you look at
I trust the Chinese more than I Israel. Like I know what China's intentions are. They don't want to destroy
it, yeah,
America. They
they
want
at
to be
least just
better
want to
than
use my
America.
information to make some money off of it, sell it somewhere. But the Zionists, I don't know what they're gonna be doing with that. Worried about that.
I think honestly, I think the Zionist goal for America is to keep the people angry at each other and distracted while the politicians consistently send them money. I think they realize and know that more than ever now, the general public of America is against Israel, and they have to get us against each other so we stop focusing on how bad Israel is and start focusing on how bad we are. Like all the
Yeah, the
evil
evil
left
left
wants to
wants,
cancel
yeah.
you, the right wants to kill you, the left wants to kill you, the right wants to cancel you. It's just the same old thing story, but with the different side. It's like a play,
No, yeah,
and
and
it's put
USA
in
is
front
getting
of us
played
to
on both
distract
sides of
us.
it. Realistically, like, and it's
Absolutely.
ridiculous.
And I mean, the thing is, Trump is absolutely enabling it too. I mean, even since he first became president, it was pretty bad, but this term has been worse than even the first, especially
4
with this put
visits from Netanyahu in nine and
in
nine
less than a
months
year.
by Trump. What is going on, dude?
Yeah.
What is going on?
And
Like,
what is
like
going on? And the thing is, according to what Trump has said, reported by what Trump has said, Trump is very buddy buddy with the Muslims in the Middle East, which is funny to me because the right, a lot of the GOP hate Muslims. And looking at Nancy Mace, Laura Loomer,
you
and just a lot of people on the far right.
even Ted
And
Cruz.
what I find funny about that is Trump does nothing to curtail Islamophobia in this country because he benefits from it. You know what I mean? He knows his base doesn't like a lot of his base doesn't like Muslims, so he's not going to be talking about how Muslims are good people. But at the same time, a lot of his base is starting to get it go against Jews. But because he is owned by Netanyahu, whether through the Epstein files,
Yeah.
he is going to do whatever Netanyahu wants him to do, and we're seeing that right now, big time, with what's going on in the Middle
Right. I think
East.
didn't it was reported by the Wall Street Journal. Yes, here we go. We have it's at the last part of the notes, but I kind of want to get into it because Trump reportedly raged at Netanyahu over the Qatar attack, and apparently he is saying that like Netanyahu is basically like fucking over Trump. I think the Wall Street Journal reported
He
that
is. He is.
Trump is quoted saying he is trying to fuck me over. And he is 1000% is all of his support that he gained up in his 4 years of attacking, not attacking, going after Biden, being on the opposite side of Biden on a lot of things, hitting Biden on the things that Biden failed on in his 4 years, is all being dwindled with only 9 months. You have to understand that.
And
Like, he is at levels
yeah,
that he was at his first presidency, at like 47 and below. Like, that is god awful. That's horrible. And even all these recent elections that are happening, Democrats are coming in and winning. They're coming in like
yeah.
Georgia's close.
I
I
mean,
will
that's why
say
they're
Georgia
trying to
looks pretty
gerrymander.
close. I will say, with Ossoff
I
and the
mean,
other
North
guy.
Carolina
But
might get a Democratic senator.
that
That'd
would
be
be huge. But
huge.
like, he's seeing the sands shift, and also like on top of him saying Netanyahu is fucking him, you also have to realize Mike Johnson. He's up there with Trump when it comes to being. He might be the second biggest supporter of Israel, because when I like came across on Twitter and I found out that this meeting happened, I was like what? How far are we going to let them get into our government, basically?
Can you
Like,
tell our listeners about
so
the
like
meeting? We haven't
so
we
the
haven't
House
touched on that.
Speaker Mike Johnson met with APAC and Jewish leaders in September 2025.
Including rabbis. I just want to say that he met with APAC, Jewish leaders, and
Yeah, apparently.
rabbis. Why are
Why are they
rabbis
there?
there?
Maybe they want to, build some more tunnels like they did in New York. But to get back to this meeting, so pledging to block isolationist GOP candidates and discussing Charlie Kirk theories with ADL's Jonathan Greenblatt. So APAC spent 100 million plus in 2024 primaries, ousting critics like Bowman, and participants within that meeting included reps Wahlberg and Kustoff. So Johnson had a meeting with APAC, which is the largest Israeli. I think it's one of the only Israeli lobbying groups.
There's
It's
J Street
bigger.
as well.
I would say this one's probably bigger, probably on the same levels, if not bigger than the industrial complex as well as pharmaceutical. It might overshadow both of them
So
combined when it
I want to
comes to
add this: the
their level.
the pharmaceutical lobby is the largest lobby by a good margin. But this is the kicker: APAC is by far the largest lobby for a foreign country.
Yeah,
They're
they're foreign
like
agent.
all these lobbies that you'll see spending wise, like they're like businesses in America. They lobby to congressmen so they can get preferential treatment in America because they're American businesses. APAC is completely different. They give our congressmen money to do things for Israel, a
Israel.
foreign country. So
Yep.
we don't get any at least when on the American lobbies are lobbying it, at least you could argue trickle down economics or something like, oh yeah, we're giving
Yeah.
tax cuts to these guys, it's going to trickle down. There is no benefit to this American Israel relationship. There is none.
No, there's no benefit. They over in Israel, from what I've read about how they live, they basically don't work. There's no working. They give free education, free healthcare. While over here, you have individuals that can't even afford daily groceries in 2025, with wages starting to get high, things of that nature. But it's like we can't even afford daily, you know, items. But over in Israel, everything is free, and it's a free Scott world over there compared to what we have to live through, even though we're giving them and subsidizing basically their whole entire living. It's ridiculous when you really look at it, how much less America gets back in that trade-off relationship.
Yeah.
Across the board. Across the board. And looking at APAC even more, that's what JFK wanted to do. He wanted to make APAC a terrorist group, which I now know Trump is stating that Antifa is going to be now looked at as a terrorist group. I also feel like Proud Boys should be included within that. They are also a group that has had extremist outbursts as well as riots within the years during Trump, actually. But I think it's got to be played on both sides. I hate picking one side, but you obviously know the history where there's been bad on the other side with things.
The
It
thing
just
is,
doesn't add up.
I definitely argue they're both hate groups, but I wouldn't
Exactly.
say
They're
they're
both
terrorist
hate groups.
organizations. They're not terrorist organizations. They don't have a political goal. Proud Boys just hate non-white people. Antifa just hate people who are not aligned with what they believe.
Right.
I can see
You
the
could,
argument for why
right.
both
You
could be
could see
seen
for
political. You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Yeah.
Because everything can be political in nature if
I
you
think
really
they
want to
should
argue it.
both be on the same pedestal. Don't put one
Yeah,
up
I agree with
because
that.
you're only one different. No, keep it the same, because that's when you have the the level of political violence that exacerbates discourse in media as well as in person. Like that's when you have all that happens, when
Yeah.
you have him saying, "Oh, Antifa's this, oh, BLM's this," but not stating that, proud. You can see that other conservative groups have walked down those same paths of violence and political rhetoric that has stepped out of line and things of that nature. You have to put it on both sides. If you can't put it on both sides, then don't even take the action, because
Yeah.
now you're only going to have the one side react, and it's only going to get worse.
I mean, the thing is, the reason why he's designated Antifa as a terrorist organization now is then so he can say people who are who are he will designate people who disagree with him as Antifa, and then he will try to lock them up or do whatever he can with them based off national security issues. Like, oh, they're a member of this terrorist organization, they're a national security issue. We're going to charge them with terrorism.
You saying that's got me on a theory here. You want to hear it?
Go
So
for
I
it.
think what could happen, there could be like another big whole, you know, event that happens, an incident that happens somehow involving Antifa, and with Trump's designation as them as a terrorist group, right? How much do you want to bet that that individual from Antifa that does that incident is going to be labeled as transgender? And then, all right, so you're following me with this now. See, smart, you're following me. So
Yeah.
with the terroristic designation now, and now with the individual, if the individual is trans, that is a full-on assault on that whole entire ideology that Democrats had, piled up throughout those 4 years. It's wrong to go about it that way, completely across the board. Completely
Yeah.
wrong to go about it
And I
that
want
way.
to add as well. They don't actually care about death. I will keep reiterating that every single episode we have where we talk about the sad topic of death. These politicians do not care about people dying. They don't. The deaths are just a thing to be used to further their political ambitions. There was a school shooting where children were murdered the same day Kirk got killed.
Oh wait, and
Nothing is said about them.
don't also forget, this has been talked about, but not talked about at all on the news. Actually, there was a African American teenager at a university.
Who got
Yeah, he
lynched?
got lynched. No talk, no nothing,
No
no nothing.
talk.
No one wants to talk about that.
They don't
They don't
care.
care.
They don't
Only
care. They can't
yeah, you
use that
can't
for their benefit.
exactly, and that's what it is. They want to use deaths for their benefits, and that's where politicians literally lose their soul. If you're going to use someone's death
Yeah.
to crusade your beliefs, your vision, your plan on other individuals, you have no soul. Like, how can you use an individual's death to only make things worse?
I mean, that's the thing. It's humanity is extremely evil. I mean, it's the easiest way to say it. We here in the West are very lucky to have the life we
Oh,
live. I mean, it's a very peaceful life. But the moment you get into Eastern Europe, Africa, and beyond, it's a lot darker. And I mean, even right now, the Ukrainian war in the moment, more than 1 million dead in less than a few years. The Bosnian War, the largest genocide on European soil since the
yeah,
Holocaust.
we might be
Then
back
you've
in
got the Rwanda
Afghanistan.
genocide in Africa. You've got the Sudanese war, where the women and children are being starved, raped, and murdered. You've got so much evil that goes on in the world that people on the West aren't exposed to. So they have this gingerly rose tinted image of how life is, how humans should be. Humans are disgustingly evil. If you have that as your base, everything makes a lot more sense. People aren't inherently good. There's
Well,
a
I would say
Islamic
so. I
belief that I
would
fully
no, yeah,
there's an Islamic belief that I fully agree with. The only time that we are pure good is the moment we're born. After that, we all get tainted by the dark depths of humanity and gradually have to battle with ourselves to be good or be bad. A lot of people, I would say a minority, but when you're talking about a planet with 7+ billion people, even if 100 million people are giving into that evil, that's still a lot of people. There's a lot of people, a minority of humans, I will say, that are literally giving in to that dark inhibition within them. There's a Native American saying that I like, that a proverb actually. In you there are two wolves, a good and evil wolf. The one that wins is the one that you feed more. And that's a very good way of looking
yeah.
at the human soul. And it applies to a lot of other cultures and religions. Buddhism is the same way. Christianity is the same way. Islam is the same way. That there is a battle within all of us between good and evil, and that we need to have good prevail. And these people in power, They let evil win because letting evil win is how you get to these positions so much of
Right.
the time. You need to be a
No,
bad
you really do.
person.
It's that proverb about the two wolves. And yeah,
Yeah,
I really like that proverb too, because that's basically what it is. You do have two sides that you have to fight and deal with, and you really want to always have that good side of you. Be there and stand up and win that fight realistically. Like, yes, there's always going to be that little bit of evil, that little bit of dissent in you, but that has to be what doesn't come out in a sense. Like
yeah,
realistically, and as you're saying about all these other places, like Trump has even been saying that we may go back into Afghanistan. Like, what are we doing? What are we?
crazy,
The stuff
crazy.
that he's been spouting out is insane, and what's even more insane is really what's going on with the economy. So the U.S. dollar is taking a talk about a dip. The U.S. dollar did 10% in 2025, extending a 96% decline since 1913. Since the 1913 Fed creation due to inflation.
Yeah,
Fed September 2025, 25 BPS cut to 4.7, 5%, blamed weak labor, which is unemployment's at about 4.4%, despite a 2.9% core PCE. So the Cabalsi letter notes historic cut into inflation. Um, Dot point projecting is around like 50 BPs more by the end of the year. 2026 inflation is at a 2.6%. So we got a stagflation risk here, possibly coming
beautiful,
for the
beautiful.
next few months, so forth. So GDP growth slowed about 1.5 quarter two in 2025. Some other stark numbers individuals need to be more aware of. Housing 30-year mortgages at 6.49%, down from 7.2%, but demand is low due to locked in, rates with the everything from the big was it big beautiful bill. Yes, all these
The
yeah, everything from
BBB. I
the
love this. I love to say baller brand. You know what I mean? I like to think that freaking LeVar was in
yeah,
Congress somehow
right.
getting the big baller
So
brand
like
bill passed, but
from
nonetheless,
those cuts that are going to be coming from the big beautiful bill, the Medicare cuts that we have been talking about. So ACA premiums from those cuts face 75% hikes for 22 million if subsidies expire, which is what the Congressional Budget
that's
Office
gonna piss
state
people
estimates, and
off.
that's also going to affect me, like not me myself, but like for the institution that I work for at the county college level, that's going to exacerbate us
Yeah,
across the board. Like, we have been having multiple conversations with the administration currently, as well as campaign of Cheryl and also Chitterelli about these cuts and what the administration is doing. So we'll speak more on that after, probably in the new year and so forth. But one thing that's
yeah.
interesting too is that New York. Did you see that? New York will soon send the state's first ever inflation refund.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Checks.
Ridiculous. Just cut
Yeah, I'm like, what are
taxes.
you
Just
doing?
cut
I'm like,
taxes.
we learned from this with the checks that went out from Biden. So it's like,
The thing is, the COVID stimulus checks were fresh printed
literally,
money. They added to the money supply, so that devalued the dollar. If they would have just taxed the rich, cycled that to the poor, there wouldn't have been nearly as much of an inflationary impact because you're not printing new money, you're just cycling it through the system. So now my whole opinion of this all is, why are we giving money when we can just cut taxes? If we have money to give, let's just cut
right,
taxes. But it's really the big issue with this all is that the economy is going down a place where we can't, the middle class is losing strength quickly. Right now,
yeah,
90% of the stock market is owned by the top 10% of earners. That means that the remaining 90% own less than 10%, not own around 10% of the stock market. And what I think is very, very fascinating. Now, Mikhail, when I saw this, I couldn't believe it. I had to actually send it to you. It was a chart that was depicting the economic stock market growth versus the job openings
oh my
in
god, yeah,
America. Now, back to 2000. So back to the .com bubble. These two data sets were extremely correlated. The better the stock market did, the more job openings there were. The worse the
oh,
stock
that's,
market did, the less
makes sense.
job openings there were. Even through the Great Recession, it was following that. They were together to a T, like peas in a pod. Starting back at 2022, 2023, they have extremely decoupled. And I mean, it's quite literally, dude, like they were going up together in a straight line and then they just completely split
Oh yeah,
off. You
I
know what
bet.
I mean?
I can only bet.
And it's a harrowing thing because this shows one thing: the people at the top are getting richer by the stock market gains, while their working class, the sustaining class of the economy, is
Right. There's only a
suffering.
small subset of
And
individuals that even own stock outright. I think it's maybe less than 10% of average individual own stock, and even a smaller percentage are into crypto. So just
most people just
right,
have
401k, they
401ks and
just
you
let
can't cash
their
those out.
money do what it does. Obviously, if you're in a good organization, you have a very good 401k. You're doing pretty well for yourself without having to go in the extra mile and to do stocks and all of that. But that's also those things are important because they give you a level of generative wealth that you can tap into outside of your 401k. Get taxes pulled out, all the penalties and so forth if you're not the age. But on top of the numbers that you said, looking at this chart from the Federal Reserve, actually, this is on
Oh,
yeah
the
this is on
Fed.
our notes here. So the top 1% of U.S. earners now have more wealth than the entirety of the middle class. Do you understand that? It's been on a pretty evenly trend throughout. I mean, when looking at the chart from it covers from 93 to 20 to 1993 to 2023. So looking at
Yeah.
2020, I mean, looking at 1998, it's like right in the middle. It's a very big gap. But as you get from 90 like 6 to about 2018, that's where the big shift. That's where that big shift hits, and you have the middle class wealth just dwindling down almost every single decade besides from two if you take 2000 to 2005. That's probably the only time looking at the chart it's sustained that wages were actually doing a little bit better than the 1%. Ever since then,
Yeah.
it has been a constant decoupling and a decrease in what the middle class can do, and we're seeing that across the board.
Dude, that's what happens when it's socialism for the rich, but rugged capitalism for everybody else. You know what I mean? Like, this is why the recession in so much is why quite literally almost half the country is open to the idea of
Yeah,
socialism.
no, I 100% agree with that as well, and that's why I feel like a lot of Democrats are now actually picking up more progressive leaning views. In a sense, I'm one that's a little hesitant on that. I like in certain areas we can be more progressive than others, like on the financial side of things, as well as like the social services side of things. Be a little bit more progressive and so forth when it comes to like societal issues and so forth. I think that's where that red leaning needs to kick in just a bit. But there is a very
Dude,
huge like
socialistic.
uptick in Democrats that are very much supporting left wing solutions for these issues that we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, we just saw the New York governor, Kathy
Yeah,
however
yeah.
you say her
Hochul,
last name. She
Hochul,
just
Hochul,
endorsed
Mamdani.
Mamdani,
That was kind of
and
like
that leaves it.
it's kind of forced. I don't want to say it's kind of forced, but it's
Yeah,
like who you going?
it's
It's
good for her political
exactly.
career
Thank
to
you.
do it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's basically what it
Yeah,
was. When I saw that she was gonna do it, and everyone else was kind of following suit, I was like, so she was the first gun that had to go off before the races started. Huh?
yeah. I mean, dude, it's New York. That's like one of the two most socialist states in the
Literally,
country. You know, that and
I'm
California.
like if she would have went
Damn.
Cuomo, she would have been done for.
Oh yeah, but I also want to add that the few politicians from New York who still haven't endorsed him: Jeffries, massive Israel supporter; Schumer, massive
Yeah,
Israel supporter; and Gildebrand, massive Israel supporter. So it's quite literally the reason why they aren't endorsing Mamdani has nothing to do with his socialist policies. It has like Israel. It's
right.
sad,
Yep.
and it's exactly what's wrong with the Democratic Party today. But I just wanted to say
No,
that
it
little bit of a
definitely
rant.
is.
No, but I want to
No,
add
it definitely
further.
is.
Talking
Yeah.
about socialism, the thing is, social security is socialism. You know, literally social security, and it's one of the most popular programs in America. But old people love it. Old people who hate socialism the most love social
Yeah.
security. Isn't that
My
ironic?
grandma, yeah, my grandma loves it. She talks about it all the time. When I see her, she's like, "Got my social security check." I'm like, "Yes, ma'am."
Yep,
They're gonna
yep, they
stop
love it. Dude,
checks. I don't know if
a
you
lot
saw
of
that. They're
people.
gonna stop doing paper checks. They're gonna do electronically now.
Oh my god, thank God.
No, that's horrible. For the older generation.
electronic deposits, dude. The
Oh, I
older
don't know. I mean,
generation.
I hope it's an electronic. I hope they do it that way, not in some other way. But hopefully
Oh
that's
yeah, I'd
the case.
imagine they
But
start doing like the thing is when I did taxes, yeah, it was paper checks. You get them, you
yeah,
either pick it up from Social Security or you get it mailed to you and then you deposit it in the bank.
yep.
But the thing is, you could just give them your bank info. They can automatically deposit the money. You know what I mean? And the thing is, I will say this: if you don't know how to set up electronic deposits on your bank, buddy, it's 2025. We've had this for like 30 years. You
Yeah,
know what
I
I
know.
mean? Like if you don't know how to go to the give your bank info to the Social Security office, that's on you. You know what I mean? Learn. And but to the point of what I was saying, Social Security is one of the most popular programs in America, but it accounts for 20% of our federal spending. So this is a question of how effective is this for the long scheme of the country versus what the people are benefiting from. Because as we know it right now, me, you, Mikhail, we're likely not going to see a dollar out of Social Security. They have.
No,
This is the thing. I go on this rant with Social Security anytime the topic comes up. Social Security tax, a tax that every American is has to pay. And so let me just 100% get the tax rate on this down. I believe it's around 12%, 8 to 12%. Oh, got to turn on my mouse. Social Security tax rate. So 6.2 for the employee and 12.4. Yeah, 6.2% on both sides. So 6.2 for the employee, 6.2 for the employer, 12.4 if you're a self-employed individual, which don't get me started on the self-employed tax. That's also batshit bullshit. So the thing is with the Social Security tax, once you get up to 120,000 in total paid for Social Security, you don't have to pay anymore. That number hasn't changed for decades. Even as the dollar has gone from a fraction of what it was worth back then,
yeah,
they haven't changed that amount. Now, the thing is, not only that, but the rich people, the richest in the country, they literally don't pay that 6%. Everybody else pays that 6% except for the top richest people in the country, the people who have the most money to give to Social Security. So, like, people want to talk about how Social Security has all these issues, and I'll admit, yes, it does.
yeah, it
There's a
definitely
lot of
does.
things we can improve. The number one thing is changing that 120,000 cut. Dude, just get rid of the cut, make it a 1% flat tax, apply it to capital gains, apply it to apply it to where the rich make their money, and you will never see Social Security run dry. The thing is, this country has a system set up where we take the money from the young, we take the money from the poor and the middle class,
Exactly.
and we give it to the old and the rich. That's the issue with this country. The thing is, the reason why we do that is because we're controlled by old rich people. That's exactly why they're setting the system up to benefit them. And they're doing it damn well. And we're going to go into this country. We're going to go down a spiral of debt as we are now.
Yep.
And the people are just going to be like, oh, well, you should have prepared better. You should have saved more. You should have been more smart when it came to finances. Buddy, you shouldn't have sold out the future of the country so you could buy your fifth house as a goddamn 77 geriatric. You know
Right.
what
I
I
wish
mean?
I could be back in the day. Sell a house and buy it for two chickens and a cot back then.
Right, right.
Sheesh.
Like,
Like we're
dude,
like yeah,
after
yeah.
World War II, after World War II, houses were like $5,000,
I
$4,000.
I've had conversations with like older individuals, and like I sometimes joke around, jokingly will say, you guys ruined it for us, and sometimes they're like, yeah, we did. I'm like, yes, the
They did.
boomers unfortunately ruined what the American dream is. Like even for me when I was growing up and like high school, for me like my like high school, middle school, and whatever, I always thought it's like the house, picket fence, and so forth. All that, this, that, and the third. Now like my imagining of like what the American dream is honestly just like land and just financial freedom. That's it.
Mine is literally just not having debt. That's
Yeah,
all. That's
like that's where I put at financial freedom basically. Financial freedom and just having land and property.
yeah.
That's like the two biggest things for me that I feel are now almost the new American dream. Because that's what I feel like a lot of individuals are trying to strive for. Not having debt, having something you can put your name on, that's your actual land. Like that's important because that's something that can be cultivated by future generations and so forth, and obviously can have financial upbringings and advantages as well. So it's like that's where my level of the American dream is when it's gone out the door, kind of being like a you know suburban house, two-car garage, white picket fence. Like yes, those are things I would like to aspire for, but like that's not my goal. My
Feels
goal is I want to
unrealistic.
have land, build something up from it. Like my uncle, he moved to Florida. He built up his own house in Florida. I
Yeah.
want to do things like that because that's your own at that point. It's not owned by someone else or any nature, but the way the economy is, the way everything is, it just makes it so hard to actually go about and do that. That's why, younger Americans think that the dream is alive, and a lot of them also think that the dream was never even true to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a firm believer in the American dream of what it was and what it can be. I mean, my parents came here in 90. This is a story that I like to say. But it is true. My parents came over here in 97. They had $75 in US dollar and like grocery bags of clothing because, and like a suitcase or two because we didn't have much money. It was post-war Bosnia. We didn't have money. The reason why we were able to come to America was through a Red Cross program. We were able to get the tickets, the airplane paid for. The reason why we were able to live in America was I'm very grateful to Christians, much more so than most people you'll meet, honestly. The program that we had a sponsorship through was this church in Carlisle, my hometown, where people were sponsoring displaced couples from the Bosnian War. And that how the sponsoring would work is they would help you assimilate into the country and they would financially provide for you. So, for example, our first apartment was paid for by these people until my parents were able to, after a few months, my parents immediately started working when they were able to get here. They were working factory jobs, not factory. My mom was working at like a Ross warehouse. My dad was doing odds jobs that he could pick up, and they were making minimum wage. They were making about $5 an hour, and then they worked 10 to 12-hour days taking care of their kids. We were able to get a house on a $0 down payment because there was a program out by the federal government at that point for $0 down payment houses so people could get houses who couldn't afford it. We were able to thankfully through the Great Recession we got extremely close. We were able to keep the house, and a lot of people suffered during the Great Recession badly. And then, as time went on, we were able to sell that house and my parents were able to buy their own beautiful home after 20, 25 years living in the country. And that's really what a lot of people think of the American dream. If you work hard enough,
Yeah,
you will get what you want. And a lot of people just don't see that as feasible nowadays
yeah,
because,
not
these
anymore. No.
housing has gone up massively. And not only that, but wages aren't keeping up with it. Not only that, but things are just getting to the point where the dollar is weakening. We aren't getting any kind of financial benefit nor security from the federal government. And so people are just thinking, right now, rent delinquencies are at a 10-year high.
And I
We
think
see credit has just hit its all-time high.
in searches
Consumer
too.
confidence has just hit an all-time low. Everything looks bad.
Yeah, everything looks bad, and like it really dilutes really what individuals are looking at for America and really what they want in the grand scheme when it comes to America and what really that dream is. Like it's sad to sit and talk about it, but like it has diluted in the last 10 10 years, I would say, because I was in high school in 2015. So that 10-year time span, my whole thinking of the American dream has completely changed, just the
Yeah.
way that things economically have changed. But that's just how the world, how it works, unfortunately.
And I
The
think
way that things were back then were never gonna stay maintained enough to where they are now, but that doesn't mean to say that there could not have been policies better put in place to better set up our generation. I will say that.
And the thing is, and I think it's very fitting for what's going on in America nowadays. Financial hardship is a very easy way to make people extreme politically.
Yeah.
Very easy. Just look at Germany after World War One. Literally, they got hit with hyperinflation. They were dealing with bad unemployment. They were broke. And what did broke Germany lead to? The Nazis.
Right. I was gonna say, look at real estate in America. '08. Obama
Yeah.
had it. He had it. He managed it and he got elected again. They didn't want a Republican to get in office and start doing things because they understood that's where we got there in the first place.
Yeah.
Then they elected him again. So yeah, it's the same thing that you're saying.
And that's what
But
led to this big push for socialism among a lot of people was the recession. You know what I mean? That
yeah,
financial hardship led a lot of people to go further left.
yeah,
Now we're
because they're
dealing with
seeing
more
like all these
financial
other
hardship
countries get
now.
all these things that we don't like, but we make more, we produce more, we intake more than these countries. Like, why are we doing the same exact thing?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's a
It
crazy
is.
thought.
It is. It's a tough time to be an American worker, and I really hope that all my fellow Americans out there can manage to keep themselves and their families fed, housed, and taken care of. It is tough out there, guys.
No, yeah, because that's the main important thing. Definitely being sure that your finances, yourself, and also yourself financially, and honestly, in today's world, morally and politically, are aligned with your own thinking. Basically, you need to be your own person, and everything that comes with politics. Have your own perspective. Listen to your own channels. Hopefully, you guys are listening to ours as well. But as I always say, we don't try to come on here and push on our perspective, our views. We try to just give the information that we are gathering within the days between that we record. Realistically, we try to give that information in the best way possible, and
Give
we've
you
been
different
getting very good.
perspectives on it.
Yeah, we give our own perspectives and also different perspectives that are out there as well to kind of put a spin on different and certain things. So, as always, we greatly always appreciate everyone that listens, that spreads the word about the podcast. It means a lot to all of us, and we do have some very, 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 very exciting guests coming on soon. I think we have almost like 2 or 3 signed up. We're moving along
We
here.
have 2 in the next 2 weeks, and then
Yeah.
then we got your old boss who we're gonna try to get on in
Yeah, I'm gonna
October.
try to get him on October. He's extremely busy as well. He's
Seems
never
I mean,
not.
I imagine.
Yeah, he's
Adult
never
life's
not busy,
busy.
honestly. But
Yeah.
yeah. So we're looking at in total about like 4. We got R2 now. My former rep I worked for. Hopefully, we'll have a candidate that's running up in Newark. And then we'll really be moving.
I
And
mean,
we appreciate everyone that's been tagging along this so far. What 2-month ride we've been on?
yeah.
Yep.
Getting better. We're getting better at this.
Oh yeah, across the board getting better, without a
Yeah.
doubt.
So, to sign out, thank you, our dutiful listeners. God bless America, and may peace be with you all. Mikhail, you got anything else?
Thank you everyone for listening. Continue to listen, continue to share, and also continue to give us feedback. Thank you very much for listening, and everyone have a good night.